Hello and welcome to the Top 20 of 2012. This is now an annual tradition at CHCH News where we look back at the past 12 months. As always, we're focusing on the big stories in this region, but also the stories that made headlines around the world and in many cases touched and had an impact on us. Some of the stories we'll cover in the next hour will move you, while others expose a shocking side of humanity. We've also seen some incredible feats this year, human beings who've pushed their bodies and abilities to their limits, and they've also pushed their way into the headlines, deservedly so, and that's where we're starting this year's countdown with some fantastic feats. When 14-year-old Annalise Card touched the wall at Maryland Bell Park in Toronto in August, she became the youngest swimmer to ever cross Lake Ontario. Her 52.5-kilometer marathon swim across the Great Lake put her name in the record books and made her a household name at the same time. And while the teen seemed surprised by the reaction to her accomplishment, including being given a Queen's Diamond Jubilee medal, getting her name on the same plaque as other swimmers like Vicky Keith, and having her name on the signs in and out of her hometown, Carr wasn't in this for herself. Her 27-hour swim managed to raise more than $230,000 for Camp Trillium. The money Carr raised has certainly managed to help. And now from the chilly and choppy water of Lake Ontario to the edge of outer space.
Felix, disconnect the oxygen hose.
On Sunday, October 14th, 43-year-old daredevil Felix Baumgartner stepped out of the edge of his capsule and almost 39 kilometers above the Earth jumped into the history books. But during his incredible free fall, the former Austrian paratrooper went into an out-of-control spin. For the millions watching live, Felix was just a speeding white dot. But keep in mind, had his specially designed spacesuit torn, it would have meant instant death. During the 4 minutes and 20 seconds of free fall, he reached record-breaking speeds exceeding 1,300 kilometers per hour, breaking the sound barrier. And as he glided safely back to Earth, his family and the rest of the world watching breathed a huge sigh of relief. Well, not to be outdone, and certainly not someone who would take no for an answer, Nick Wallenda practically hot-dogged the last few steps of his high-wire walk across Niagara Falls in June. It was clearly a big relief for Wallenda when he reached the other side of Niagara Falls that Friday night. Not only did he battle the wind and mist from the powerful force of nature, but after battling the Niagara Parks Commission for permission to walk across the falls, his dream came true. He didn't exactly get to do it the way he wanted, though. Over fears of televising a man's death, ABC forced Wallenda to wear a harness for the stunt, which he calls a skill. And while millions around the world watched on TV, the feat also attracted more than 100,000 people to the Canadian side of the border who watched Wallenda step off at Table Rock. Well, from great achievements to dubious distinctions, the mayors of two big Ontario cities found themselves embroiled in scandal this year. And what happens next, we still don't know.
To everyone who believes I should have done this differently, I sincerely apologize.
After being found guilty of violating the Municipal Act for using City of Toronto letterhead to solicit donations for the football team he coaches, Toronto Mayor Rob Ford apologized. The apology came after Ford learned that a judge had granted him a legal stay so he can stay in office until an appeal of his verdict is heard. That's scheduled to start January 7th. One day later, the Mayor of London will also be in front of a judge.
I'm innocent. I'm innocent. And I've been given a mandate by the people of London.
Joe Fontana was professing his innocence to the national media after being charged by the RCMP for theft under $5,000. The charges came after the London Free Press published a Public Works Canada check stub for $1,700, which was allegedly used to make a deposit on Fontana's son's wedding at this club. Fontana was a member of Paul Martin's Liberal government. The former manager of the club said he was also given a similar check for almost $19,000 to cover the rest of the cost, but the RCMP didn't appear to find that piece of evidence. Earlier this month, London City councillors defeated a motion to have Fontana step aside while he faces the charges, so he'll remain in charge for now. Well, we're just getting into winter now, and who knows what the weather will bring, but if you think back to earlier this year, do you remember getting much winter weather? I didn't think so.
It was the winter that never was.
Instead of snow days and skiing, the winter of 2012 was more sunshine and Slurpees. In fact, several times in the season of traditionally cool weather, we didn't just break hot weather records, we shattered them. For businesses that rely on sales of winter products like skis, snow shovels and snowblowers, well, business was slow. And at local ski hills, the season was short and sloppy. The warm weather also led to earlier harvest for tender fruit growers in Niagara, where crops were consistently 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule.
Everywhere I went, people were asking me where the snow was. And all winter long, I kept saying, oh, you wait, it's coming. Because, in all the years that I've been doing this, I've never experienced a winter where at some point we didn't get hammered. And it just never happened.
We had record-breaking temperatures a number of occasions into southern Ontario. I mean, we can get influxes of warm air normally, and then you get right back into the cold air, but it just didn't seem to get cold. So you had this mild air sitting across us, and that gave us those record-breaking temperatures. I can't remember exactly how many records fell, but all kinds of them did.
But severe weather did strike this year. Superstorm Sandy, as it was dubbed, slammed into the U.S. Northeast, leaving a path of death and destruction in its wake. Southern Ontario was spared the wrath of Sandy, but in New York and New Jersey, the hurricane left behind billions in damages and was second only behind Katrina in terms of total damage. The cleanup and rebuilding from Sandy will take years. Well, beyond the fiscal cliff in the U.S., one of the biggest financial stories of the year was the initial public offering of social media giant Facebook. Ahead of its first trade, many investors were lining up to buy a piece of the next big thing. Now, in the seconds after Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg rang the opening bell, signaling the start of trading in his company's stock, things went south. While 82 million shares changed hands in the first 30 seconds, there was a 5-minute delay in trading due to overwhelming demand, but that demand didn't really translate into an eye-popping share price. Priced at $38, it closed a few dollars higher after day one, but in the first 7 months of trading, the stock is hovering in the $28 range. It has traded for less than $18 a share, not exactly what investors were hoping for.
In the end, the investors got disappointed because the revenue shortfall wasn't there in terms of what the expectations was, but there was also some technical glitches with regards to trading. And you know what, the winners in the end were probably Facebook employees themselves, the Zuckerbergs of the world, because they could actually offload some of their shares and get some of that money back. And the actual investors like you and I, we took a hit at the beginning.
At least one lawsuit has been launched in connection to Facebook's IPO. It claims an analyst working on the deal cut revenue projections and told some key investors before the IPO went public. Both Facebook and Morgan Stanley are defending the suit, but it's been far from an easy ride for the social network, which now has more than 800 million users worldwide. Well, the sudden collapse of a section of roof in the only mall in Elliott Lake in late June left 2 people dead, launched several investigations as well as a class action lawsuit, but it also left many scratching their heads about decisions made in the rescue effort.
Save our families, save our friends, rescue missions never end.
That chant from angry Elliott Lake residents began a short time after they heard the stunning news that the search for one person believed to still be alive inside the collapsed Algo Mall was called off.
It was 2 days. It was just 2 days, and this person could still be alive, and they were calling off the search. It was just a shocking decision. The event itself, I've just never seen anything like that.
When the roof suddenly collapsed inside the only mall in the small northern Ontario town, all but 2 people managed to escape. Immediately, rescue crews tried to search the unstable rubble, but even though they'd heard what they called signs of life inside, the rescue was called off over safety concerns for the crew.
So we were then notified that it was unsafe.
It was a turning point for the entire story. It was a turning point for my year as a reporter, just to hear that decision being made. And even as they made the decision, it was like, is this really happening? Are they really making this announcement?
The Premier then got involved and convinced the rescue crew to begin looking again. But it was cold comfort to Lucy Alwyn's fiancé, Gary Gendron, who'd been standing outside the collapsed mall, hoping that the tapping rescuers heard early on turned into the discovery of his loved one.
I don't care if I have to die for Lucy, and I'm going to go in there and get her.
Alwyn and 74-year-old Dolores Perizzolo were the only 2 people who died in the collapse. Both were believed to be near the lottery booth directly below where the roof caved in. Well, we're just getting started on our look back at the top 20 stories of 2012. Up next, athletic endeavors. In some case, the result is glory, while others end in tragedy.